Alright, cool. So, support SpellBreaker. Your main role with this class is boon generation. You're not focusing on strips, you're not focusing on damage, you want to focus on giving boons. You're kind of like a secondary Firebrand, where Firebrand focuses mainly on stability and Aegis, you focus on everything. So all of your skills pretty much, you can pretty much give every boon on this class for the most part. So if you look at the build, you'll notice a few things if you've read it. You've got a few traits in here that synergize with each other. So empower allies. While you're in combat, you will grant might to yourself and nearby allies each interval. So boom, right there, that's a lot of boons just for being in might, or just for being in combat. That interval is kind of long, it's about 10 seconds. Now if you look at the next trait right there, mending might, applying might to an ally heals you. So this is going to give you a lot of your sustain right there, because you're pumping out a ton of might. And if you go to the Grandmaster trait here, you'll see Phalanx Strength. When you grant yourself might, grant it to nearby allies as well. And this synergizes with your Relic. If you heard us talking about this earlier, Relic of the Mistburn. When you grant might to yourself, grant yourself additional might. Gain increased critical strike chance while at or above the might threshold. That second part's kind of unimportant because you're not dealing damage on this class because you're full minstrel, but this gives you extra might, and because of Phalanx Strength, that extra might you get also goes to your allies. Alright, so then moving on to Discipline. If you look at the second trait line here, double standards, all of your banners are going to also give resolution now, so you're going to have a lot of resolution uptime. And if you look right here, you also gain might on weapon swap. And then your Grandmaster trait in Discipline is going to give swiftness. It's going to give swiftness when you use burst skills. If you don't know what a burst skill is on this class, the only ones we have are your F1 and your F2. Alright, so moving on to your traits in SpellBreaker. In the first one, you have no escape, so dazes and stuns inflict immobilize. So that's good because you have a lot of dazes and stuns on this class. So anytime you daze or stun someone, it is also going to mobilize them. It's going to make it easier to kill them. Now, going on to the next one, dazes, stuns, pulls, knockdowns, knockbacks, and launches remove boons. So your secondary action on SpellBreaker, aside from supporting with boons, is stripping the enemy's boons. And a lot of that happens passively just from playing the class. So next one, loss aversion. Removing boons from a foe deals damage and gives you adrenaline. Adrenaline is what you need right here to use your F1 and your F2 skills. And then the next one, Attacker's Insight. Your full counter, your F2, is going to refresh your burst skills when it hits. And then the next one, your Grandmaster trait in SpellBreaker, this one's very important. Removing a boon from a foe causes all nearby foes to lose additional boons. So this is where a lot of your boon strip comes from. Alright, so now on to the utility skills and uses. So first one, you got To the Limit. This is a shout skill. You're going to heal yourself and regain all adrenaline. Nearby allies gain endurance. This will refill you and all your allies' dodge bar to 100%. So if you look right here, double dodge, no dodges left, hit this, full dodge, and also full adrenaline. Now you see it's going down very fast because I'm not in combat. If I'm in combat, it would just pretty much stay full until I use one of those skills. So let me do this to get myself in combat. So if you notice right there, just one attack, one skill put me in combat, and there's already 6 stacks of might. If I had allies around, I would have given it to them as well. Still in combat, so boom, another 6 stacks. It's just pumping out might. Alright, so general opener, what I would do going into combat, right before you get into combat, is I'm going to hit that to the limit skill. I'm not using it for healing, I'm using it to fill up my adrenaline bar. That way that I can use my F2 as much as possible, because your F2, you pretty much want to use this off of cooldown. It's going to absorb any attack, or sorry, the next incoming attack against you, and it basically, like, it'll explode around you, and that explosion causes a daze. It also gives you stability and swiftness. The skill is also unblockable. And this scales with your Grandmaster trait in SpellBreaker, so because this is a daze and it hits 5 targets, each one of those targets is going to get a boon stripped from them, and then because of the other SpellBreaker trait, everyone around them is also going to get a boon stripped from them. So you want to use this skill as much as possible off of cooldown. So pushing into combat, you know, I'm gonna run in, and I'll use that number 6 skill. It's gonna fill up my adrenaline, and now you have the ability to use your full counter. Your F1 is going to it's going to go off of whatever your main hand weapon is. So in this case, it's sword, because I have my sword and Warhorn equipped. I typically do not use F1 for sword at all. If I'm in sword Warhorn, I will pretty much use both adrenaline stacks for full counter, but I find myself not being in sword Warhorn all that often. I'm in staff most of the time. So moving on, so you go into combat, you hit that to the limit, now you've got full adrenaline, you can use your full counter pushing right in, and that's it. Basically, it makes you invulnerable essentially for just a second until you take that hit, and that hit's gonna stun, you know, there's gonna daze and remove boons from people. Very powerful skill, very short cooldown. You're gonna have plenty of adrenaline while you're in combat, so you're gonna be able to use this pretty often. Aside from that, your next utility skill is Banner of Tactics. So if you look, this also gives a ton of boons. Stability, resolution, resistance, and super speed. Super speed is not a boon, but it's really good to have because movement in War vs. World is king. So this is another thing that I would use on first engagement. We're pushing in, like, obviously you should probably have stability from your firebrand, but it never hurts to have an extra 5 stacks coming from another source. So pushing into combat, I'm going to, you know, run in, I see that group. I'm going to try to place it so that, see where it landed, I'm on the back edge of it. See, you know, that's about where the group's going to be, so that we run over it and you get the full effect, because it does multiple pulses. And you want to get as much as you can from those pulses. This will also be a stun break if people are stunned. I typically wouldn't use it for that. Stun breaking should be done by the firebrands, or your personal stun break. If that's all you have left, then yeah, definitely don't get yourself killed. Use it. So going in, you know, 6, 7, pretty easy. And then after that, you can hit number 8 once you're on top of the enemies. This is going to be a short AoE skill. It's a 360 radius around you, but it's going to strip boons from people. And remember what we talked about with the SpellBreaker trait? Because it strips boons, it's going to strip more boons, and that's going to strip more boons from people near them. And then your next skill is your Banner of Defense. This is going to give a big old chunk of barrier, almost 5k. That's a good bit of barrier. If you don't know what barrier is, it's that little overshield looking thing. If you've ever played Halo, that's what I think of it as. It's an, you know, overshield. Anyways, see, there's like 6k barrier right there. When you get hit while you have barrier, it's not hitting your normal health. Makes this, it eases things up for your healers a lot. It allows them to cleanse conditions more than heal you, which is good. They heal less, then we stay alive more, so barrier is good to have. This is a skill that I would use off of cooldown in combat, same with your Banner of Tactics. So pushing in, you're going to use 6, 7. On top of combat, you're going to use 8, and then I would probably use 9 almost immediately after that. And then the recharge on those is about 30 seconds. Your break enchantments is 15, so you'll be able to use that twice. Break enchantments, if you're within range to use it off cooldown. You want to use it as much as you can. It's a boon strip. You want to strip as many boons as you can, if possible. Same with your banners. If we're in combat, use them off cooldown. It doesn't really do anything to the enemies, so you want to make sure that you get it on the allies. And you want to be able to place it, you know, in a direction that if we're moving, we're going to run across it, because it does a few pulses. It takes a few seconds to get the full activation, the full boons, everything from it. Alright, so moving on to your elite skill, this is your bubble. If you hear the commander call for bubble, this is what they're talking about. Unless you're on a catapult, then they're talking about something else. Do not pop this if we're on a catapult. So, as you can see there, it pops a big old golden bubble. It's a very warm, cozy bubble. You want to be inside of this bubble if you see it. It's a very good place to be. It will block enemy projectiles coming in. And if you don't know how projectile blocks work in this game, if they are a dome shape like this and you're inside of it and they are using projectiles, they just like disappear in the middle of it. So even inside of it, it will absorb the projectiles. Very good skill to use. Long cooldown, so you don't want to use this on lords. Don't want to use this on NPCs. You don't want to use this willy-nilly. You want to make sure that you get the full effect of this. This is another skill. Once you put it down, it's going to be where you are, at your feet. It also has a 1.5 second cast time, so make sure that you have stability when you're using this. If you get interrupted, you'll be able to try again, obviously, but, you know, just don't die trying to use it. You know, you are very, very tanky on this class. It's totally fine if you see like a good area to bubble and the commander's not calling for bubbles. It's totally fine to like get in front of tag for a second, drop that bubble, get right back behind tag. That's totally cool. Now there will be situations where we'll have too many spellbreakers and not enough core warriors, and we might need more banners. That's great because you can just hit that little up arrow and change it to a banner if the commander does ask for that. And if you don't know what the banner does, I'll go over that real quick. You drop it on someone, same thing. It has a longer cast time than bubble. This is 2 seconds, so it can be very hard to get off sometimes. But you drop it on enemies that are downed or allies that are downed. If you can do both at the same time, that is ideal. It will instant res up to 5 downed allies and instant down up to 5 downed enemies. This is a skill that I really want everyone to get comfortable miking up in comms for. It would be really great if the people that have a banner can just say my banner, banner down, something of the sort, very quick, easy, just so you don't overlap banners. You don't want 2 or 3 people dropping their banner at the same time. This has an even longer cooldown than bubble. It's got a 2-minute cooldown. So if you use this and you don't get anything out of it, that's doo-doo. You don't want that. Because this is a very high value skill. Extremely high value. But yeah. Just try your best. Say you're casting it and you notice that someone else just casted it because 5 enemies just insta-deathed. Dodge. Cancel your cast. Use another skill. Do something. Cancel your cast. And save it. You'll have like a 5-second cooldown before you can use it again instead of a 2-minute cooldown. But yeah, default is bubble. Don't switch to banner unless the commander specifically asks for you to, please. Alright, so just going to go back over that real quick. Going into combat, you're going to press your 6 skill, you're going to press your 7 skill, and drop that on the allies. Try to get it so that we're going to get the full effect of it. Obviously, you can't always predict where the commander is going to go, but do your best. 7 and then 8 skill when you are on top of the enemies. That's going to strip boons. And then 9 skill, your other banner, banner of defense for some barrier. Very simple. You pretty much just spam 6, 7, 8, 9 when you're in combat. Very easy. Just make sure that you have good placement. That's the biggest thing with these. 0 skill, Winds of Disenchantment. Try to save it for the commander's call if they call for it. If they are not calling for it, use it at your best discretion. A lot of spellbreakers are pretty good at it. I don't always call for bubbles. I call for banners because I notice that our spellbreakers are normally pretty damn good about placing their bubbles. So moving on to the weapon skills. If you were here earlier when we were talking about it, we may not be keeping sword, but for now that is the build, so we're going to use sword. Really the only use for sword right now is the movement skill. This is how you're going to keep up with the tag. If you had to use your banner or something and you got behind for a second because of a long cast time, something like that, use that number 2 skill. You don't have to have an enemy targeted. You can if it makes it easier, but just use that to get back on tag. Be careful not to use it in combat and get way off of tag, because that would be bad. Your number 3 skill is going to do a thrust that causes bleeding, and it only affects 3 targets. Like I said, really the biggest thing you're going to use on this is the number 2. And while you're in Sword Warhorn, like I said earlier, I typically do not use the F1 skill for sword. That's just purely because it doesn't really offer all that much. I mean, a 3 target immob is decent. If you can use it at a good time, then go ahead and use it, but I feel like I get a lot more use of my adrenaline while I'm in Sword Warhorn out of using full counter twice. Moving on to your Warhorn, your number 4 skill, Charge, is going to give boons and remove movement impairing conditions. So this is a stun break, essentially. If you hear stun breaks, hit that number 4 skill. This is also a blast finisher, so if you see a light field, a water field, you can blast that for area cleanse or area healing. The number 5 skill, this is going to give you more barrier. Be careful not to use this right on top of your number 9 skill, because the barrier cap, I think, is now 25%, so anything over that can be lost. Like, as you can see there, as you can see there, my max barrier is 6,378 on this class, so someone else just got me to max with their second banner. I used my number 5 skill and it was wasted because there was no barrier to be given. So I am not 100% sure if that will overflow to people that don't have enough barrier. If it does, that's cool too. But just be careful, because you're really trying to support your sub. You're not trying to support the whole squad. Just be careful not to overlap these 2 skills. And the cooldown on this is 20 seconds, so you can use it a little bit more often than your banner of defense. This is also going to be a condition cleanse. On 5 hours, it's going to remove 3 conditions, so it's a very, very, very high value skill. Alright, moving on to staff. So your auto attack is going to do a little bit of damage, a little bit of damage. The third one's going to do some healing. So if you don't have anything to do, your weapon cooldown's too long, you burn all your other skills, hit a few auto attacks, give a little bit of healing. Your number 2 skill, big movement skill. This is going to give healing, it's going to give might and fury, and it's also going to remove immobilize from you if you are immobilized. So you can use this to enter combat if you want, after you've put down your banners. You can use this to slam down on top of your light field from your banners, give an area cleanse, because it is a leap finisher. I think that'll give an area cleanse. Hang on. Light aura, even better. Even better. Maybe not, but still pretty good. Anyways, it's always good to do combos if you can. That number 2 skill is going to leap you in there. You're going to give Might and Fury. Fury is a very good boon to have, not for you, but for your damage, because that's going to give them plus 20% critical chance. If you don't know about our damage builds, a lot of them are built around having Fury in combat, because we can have more power on the gear with less critical chance, because we're relying on that 20% from Fury. So Fury is a very critical boon for us to have for our DPS, to do their DPS. Now, next skill is another movement skill. Staff is a very fun weapon if you haven't used it before. You can leap around. You're pretty much fucking unkillable on this class. Not really, but it is very hard to die if you use your skills correctly. So that number 3 skill, you're going to charge to a location when you arrive, heal nearby allies, and grant them boons while debilitating nearby enemies. So if you watch while you use this, you're going to do that movement skill, and then when you get there, your guy's kind of like pump his chest. He's like, "Rawr!" You know, he's fucking giving them boons out. So all that shit he's giving, he's going to give you almost 4k healing. You're going to get protection and Aegis. Those are two of the most powerful boons in the game right there. Aegis is going to block the next incoming attack, no matter what it is. Protection, for 7 seconds, you're going to take 33% reduced incoming damage. That's huge. It's a lot less damage. That's good to have. It means it's going to make it harder for the enemy to kill us. It's going to make it easier for our healers to keep us alive. This is another skill that's going to remove immobile. And this is another skill that you can use as a gap closer to catch back up with the tag. And just like 2 and 3 and your banners, everything you do with these, you want to make sure you do on your allies. You're not doing damage on this class, you're supporting your allies. So everything you do, you want to make sure you do on your blue named people with the green bars. Unless you have your stuff changed, don't listen to that. Just your allies. Anyways, alright, next skill is your snap pole. Fucking awesome skill right here. You're going to use that. It's going to put out a little cone in front of you. Yes, the enemies can see that cone, so they will try to dodge out of it. That is going to pull up to 3 enemies to you. This is a very good skill to use if you're here for poles. Now, what I would do if I was trying to pull with this is I would either try to, when we're pushing into combat, I would try to get the enemy as they're moving, trying to avoid our damage. I would try to get on their tail and try to pull a couple of people on their tail. They all had Aegis because they have a cool firebrand over there. So just block that. But if you can grab a couple of people on the tail as we're moving, you know, pull them into the front of the squad, that's good too. If you can, with poles in particular, if you can kind of get a pole within the commander's line of sight, like generally if I'm running and, you know, my pole is on cooldown, but I see 2 or 3 people get yoinked, like in kind of the direction that we're going, I'm going to head towards those 2 or 3 people that got yoinked. So, you know, if you're pulling and just pulling a pole, that's cool, but try to do it in a direction that the commander is going to see. And don't, like, if you pull someone and the commander doesn't see, don't go over to them, like, you know, just, oh well, now you gotta do another pull. Like, you know, you get another one, 20 seconds, no big deal, 25 seconds, no big deal. But don't ever leave the tag just because of, like, well, I pulled him. So, if you can make a play and the play happens, that's cool. If the play doesn't happen, oh well. Now, probably one of the best ways to use this skill, if the commander does call for pulls, is I would wait for the Chronomancer's pulls first. So you're going to see that temporal curtain line go on the ground, and then you'll see up to 5 enemies kind of get yoinked to that central location when it goes away. If you see people get yoinked into that area, now you don't even have to go overextend at all because they'll kind of be in your range. And now, you know, they're pulled to about right there on circle-ish. And now you hit your snap pull and you pull them the rest of the way into the group. Now no one even has to go off tag and we just got, you know, 3, 6, 9, however many people are pulling people. So that's another pretty high value skill. Anything you can do that will separate people from the enemy group is very good to use. CCs, stuns, pulls, knockbacks, all that kind of stuff. And this is a very good skill for that. Now, next skill for your staff. Bullet Catcher is going to be a 2-part skill. You're going to spin your staff around, and it's going to block attacks. If you block attack, well, even if you don't, you get a secondary action skill that's going to give resolution, and it's a pretty big heal. So, aside from supporting with boons and stripping boons, you're also a secondary healer. You give a good chunk of health and barrier to your allies. And if you're pressing all your buttons, then you're going to do it passively. You don't really have to think about it. Just remember, if you hit that number 5 skill, always hit the secondary after. Don't use another skill because it's going to go away pretty fast. And the more attacks that you block with that number 5 skill, the more you will heal for with the secondary. So, you know how I said earlier when you're in sword, I typically do not use my F1 skill. That is not the case for staff. When I'm in staff, I typically use my F1 probably as much as my F2. It just depends on our ally's health, because this is a very powerful heal skill. It gives 2300 healing. It also gives regen, which gives another 2600 heal, and it only has a 6-second cooldown, so you can use this pretty often. Sometimes if we really need the healing, I'll use it twice instead of full counter. So that is really the gist of it. Just going back over it, pushing into combat, you're going to use to the limit your heal skill so that you get full adrenaline and you get all your dodges back. You're going to use your banner of tactics and your banner of defense. You're going to get all that stability, all that resolution, all that resistance, all those boons up. And then if you hear the commander say, give us boons while we're running, give us boons while we're running, give us boons while we're moving, like I say that sometimes, this is what I mean. Drop them banners on us while we're moving. That's going to give us boons. That's a great way to give us boons while we're moving. Now you push into combat, press that number 8 skill, you're going to lash out, strip some boons. And then probably pushing into combat, I would start off in staff. That way you can use that number 5 skill to block. You're going to absorb a lot of attacks with that block. And then your full counter is already going to be up. Use that full counter once you're in combat. If they attack you, it's going to bust and do some damage, do some daze, strip some boons. Like I said, use that full counter off a cooldown. When your weapon skills are all on cooldown and staff, go ahead and switch over to your sword Warhorn. And, you know, if you need to use that movement skill to catch up, use that sword 2 to catch up. Use that number 4 if you need a Condi cleanse for a stun break. And then use that number 5 skill off cooldown if you need that barrier. Just remember, do not overlap the number 5 skill with your banner of defense. Don't want to give too much barrier. The barrier can be wasted. Boons can be wasted. Don't over boon. While you're in sword, remember, use your full counter probably 2 times if possible. If not, and you need to swap back to staff early, that's okay too. On this class, one of your passive traits is going to make it so that your weapon swap time is half of any other class. So it only takes you 5 seconds while you're in combat to be able to swap weapons again. So you can quickly swap back and forth and use all your skills that you need to use. Just remember, on staff, you got 2 and 3 are heavy movement skills that also give a lot of boons. Make sure that if you use that 2 and 3, you place them on your allies. That way, where you land, you give the boons. You want to give boons to your allies. You don't give boons to enemies. That would be OP. That would be crazy. Imagine if you could accidentally give boons to the enemies. That would suck. Number 4 skill, that's going to be your snap pole. If you're here for poles, use that pole. As you can see, the range isn't super far, but it is very strong. It's going to pull people all the way into your feet, where the damage is just going to eat them up. And the number 5 skill, going into combat, great skill to use. It's going to block a lot of attacks. The more it blocks, the more the secondary skill is going to heal you for. And that's pretty much it. I'm going to stop the recording there. Does anybody have any questions?